Teresa has always dreamed of being a mother. However, nothing could have prepared her for a simultaneous gestation of septuples. This was just the starting point for the singular challenges that would outline this woman's journey over 23 years. The paths of this family were traced by striking events, and at that moment, few would dare to predict how they would be in the future. Today, those children who once shared Teresa's uterus. That night, Teresa and Daniel were sitting at the dinner table surrounded by a profusion of documents, bank statements, loan contracts, and real estate refinancing agreements, all witnessing their efforts. After a thorough analysis of the calculations, Daniel broke the silence with a deep sigh. "Teresa, I believe that we have finally gathered the necessary amount for the treatment." Their eyes crossed, followed by a hug that transmitted all the accumulated effort over the years. Teresa and Daniel longed to have a child for a long time without success. It was then that a doctor suggested a treatment. At that time, fertility treatments were an accessible reality only to a select group of privileged individuals, owners of a modest commercial establishment in the neighborhood. They saved every penny, contracted loans, and refinanced the house, all in favor of the dream of being in peace. The chances of success of the treatment were not totally guaranteed, but despite everything, the couple remained full of hope. After long weeks of expectation, joy finally manifested itself in the eyes of Teresa and Daniel when they saw the positive result of the first test that confirmed the pregnancy. Immediately, both began to plan the future with that little being, fruit of love, that grew in Teresa's womb. A few weeks passed, and the time came for the anxious parents to finally hear the baby's heartbeat. During the exam, the doctor showed agitation, even requesting the presence of a colleague to accompany him. The heartbeat began to echo in the room through the ultrasound device. "Teresa and Daniel, here is the sound of your son's heartbeat," said the doctor. "And here is the sound of the second baby. And here is the sound of the third." He revealed, clearly indicating that there was more than one inhabitant in Teresa's womb. 3 babies. It was more than the couple had ever imagined. The treatment had been a success beyond their expectations. With this news, Teresa knew that her pregnancy would be delicate and that she would probably have to take additional care as the belly grew. However, she considered this a minimal sacrifice in the face of the blessing of waiting for 3 babies. As time passed, Teresa's belly was growing, revealing the development of the babies. However, there was still a surprise reserved for the couple. A few weeks later, the day of the ultrasound of a new exam came. This time, they hoped to see their babies, count their little fingers, and who knows, even find out if they were girls or boys. But what this exam revealed was something truly surprising. Once again, the doctor seemed shocked by what he was seeing. "Doctor, are the 3 babies okay?" asked Daniel, realizing the doctor's apprehension. "Yes, the babies are fine. In fact, all 7 babies are fine," said the doctor. "7?" exclaimed Daniel before he felt his legs weaken. A pregnancy of 7 babies was something totally unprecedented, and not even the doctors knew exactly what to expect. The following months were of intense care and absolute rest for Teresa. 4 boys and 3 girls shared the space in her womb. As time passed, Teresa had to be hospitalized for constant monitoring. After closing the file in her small shop, Daniel hurried daily to be by Teresa's side, spending the nights in a chair next to her bed in the hospital. "My love, you don't have to come every day. It's exhausting to sleep in that chair," said Teresa to her husband. He in turn replied, wiping her hand, "You are facing the most arduous task, carrying our greatest treasures. The least I can do is be here with you. I love you and love our children." However, what this united family did not know was the imminent tragedy that fate had in store for them. On another late afternoon, Teresa awaited Daniel's arrival at the hospital. Every minute that passed without news, her concern increased. Suddenly, the bedroom door opened, but it was not Daniel who entered, but Teresa's mother. With a hoarse voice, the mother said, "My love, I ask you to think about your babies and try to keep calm. There was an attempt to rob the little market and, unfortunately, Daniel was killed by the criminals. The mother embraced her daughter, pregnant and in labor. How could something so terrible happen to this family? Teresa's world was crumbling. Unable to appear at her husband's funeral, she remained in the hospital bed, imagining how she would go on without Daniel. Building a family with children was a dream that she always longed to share with him. In addition to the irreparable pain of the loss, the small joy of the Aryan family had to be left aside. Daniel's absence brought with it unexpected financial difficulties. The story of a 7-year-old pregnant woman who recently delivered a calf reached the ears of the press. In a short time, television channels reported Teresa's situation, and the public anxiously followed the unfolding of pregnancy. Donations began to arrive from all corners of the country, with people sending baby clothes, diapers, powdered milk, and everything Teresa would need for the first months of the babies. This wave of solidarity brought relief to her soul. The months passed quickly and the time of birth was approaching. A multidisciplinary team of specialists was mobilized for the case, as the 7 babies would need intensive care shortly after birth. The babies were premature and required long months of intensive care in the hospital. At times, the situation seemed desperate, with the possibility that not all babies would survive. However, miraculously, Teresa's 7 children overcame the adversities of the first months of life. The first years of Teresa's children were widely reported by the media. However, as the children grew up, public interest gradually decreased and, consequently, donations ceased. Teresa began to rely only on the support of her mother and some close friends, who took care of the babies. When the children turned 2 years old, financial resources ran out completely. Faced with the need, Teresa decided to look for a job. She found a vacancy in a production line in an electronics factory. The work was hard, but the image of the children motivated her daily, giving her strength to move on. The love she felt for her children was immense, and she believed that any sacrifice would be small to ensure their well-being. Teresa frequently remembered a teaching from her late husband. The burden does not weigh when it is carried by love. For her, taking care of the children was not a burden, but a privilege. Aware that she would have to suffer the absence of her father, Teresa strived to balance firmness and tenderness in the creation of the children. As the children grew up, the discussions between them became frequent, either because of a toy or due to divergences about what to watch on television. The need to divide the space became a constant challenge. I carried you in my womb for months in a row, and now you cannot even cooperate with a simple toy? It is essential that you learn to dialogue and solve your conflicts. One day I will no longer be present, and you will need each other. It was what Teresa frequently told them as their children grew up. As the years went by, the individualities of each one became more pronounced. Some exhibited a natural inclination for autonomy, while others constantly yearned for attention and maternal affection. However, what really afflicted Teresa was the gradual distance between the brothers. What once represented a cohesive group, sharing the same uterine space and the first years of life, was turning into regular discussions and a noticeable lack of communication. Gradually, the particular interests of the children became more relevant. Some devoted themselves fervently to studies, looking for a way to help the family in the future. Others found refuge in extracurricular activities, such as sports or arts, seeking to escape from the difficulties of day-to-day. The disagreements between the brothers intensified, whether for material issues, such as disputes over clothes, or for the limited space in the residence, or for disagreements in relation to the future and shared responsibilities. Teresa made an effort to intervene, reminding them of the importance of mutual support. However, tensions persisted. Over time, each of the children developed their own circles of friendship and individual interests, which further distanced them from each other. 23 years have passed since the birth of the 7 children of Teresa. That singular group of brothers, now adults, walked different paths in life, each following their own journey, facing challenges and seeking to realize their dreams. Teresa, in turn, rarely managed to gather everyone at the table simultaneously. She remembered with nostalgia the times when she and Daniel sat at the table, planning a house full of children, animated by conversations and laughter. What used to represent a shared dream now seemed like a distant memory. The years of struggle and sacrifice dedicated to the creation and education of the children left deep marks. Despite everything, Teresa remained the family's Alicers, committed to keeping the children united, despite the adversities. She knew that, to overcome the obstacles and prosper as a family, they would need to rediscover the strength of unity and mutual support. However, no one could foresee that this lesson would be learned in such a painful way. On a sunny afternoon, while each of the children was immersed in their daily routines, their cell phones began to vibrate incessantly. It was their grandmother, with a hoarse and apprehensive voice, reporting that something terrible had happened. Teresa had just suffered a stroke and was being taken to the hospital in a hurry. At the hospital, the atmosphere was full of apprehension. The doctors tried to stabilize Teresa, while the children anxiously waited outside the emergency room. At that hospital, it was the first time in a long time that the 7 brothers gathered. Finally, the doctor came up with the news. Teresa was stable and had been transferred to a room. "Only 2 at a time can enter the cell," he said, trying to be understanding in the face of the delicate situation. The brothers exchanged glances. They knew that this would not be enough. The mother needed all of them around her, feeling the unconditional support and love that only they could offer. Lucas, the oldest, took the lead. His firm and determined voice echoed through the corridor of the hospital. "Doctor, we understand the rules, but we are 7 children. We simply cannot be divided. Our mother needs all of us now." The doctor hesitated for a moment, understanding the anguish of the brothers. He finally agreed, demonstrating that he understood the need to be together at that crucial moment. "I will talk to the team. Let's go." The doctor allowed a concession at that moment, while the brothers, relieved to have been heard, breathed deeply. They entered the room in silence. Teresa was lying down, frail, still recovering from the trauma she had suffered. Seeing her in that way caused them pain, but also gratitude for having her alive. Their mother opened her eyes, still weakened, and when she realized her 7 children gathered around her bed, she could not contain a weak smile. Her eyes were filled with tears of recognition and relief when she felt the comfort of their presence. "Took a shock for all of you to come together. It finally worked. Huh?" she joked, breaking the gravity of the moment with a pinch of humor, trying to ease the tension that hovered in the air. The brothers laughed discreetly, their hearts warming up with the comforting familiarity of their mother's jokes. "Mother, you gave us a great shock. We need you to be well. You are our safe haven, our safe refuge," said Lucas, holding her hand with affection. "My children," Teresa began with a voice full of emotion. "Your father and I dreamed of all of you together, planning a future, but sometimes life surprises us and your father was taken from us." She continued with a voice full of feeling. Her look went through each of her 7 children, with love overflowing from each word. "Life has not been easy, and I know that going through so many difficulties left marks on each of you. But I need the tranquility of knowing that you understand how important it is for you to remain united. Imagine a tree each following in a different direction, but you need to be connected to each other. Otherwise, you will dry up and die." Teresa's words echoed in the silence of the room, penetrating deeply into the hearts of her children. They captured the meaning behind the simple and powerful metaphors of their mother. "One day I will not be here anymore. You will need a reason to stay together. May this reason be love." Teresa continued, now with a softer and more reflective voice. "You have shared my womb, and I hope you will also share your life journeys. Brothers are the friends God gives us." She concluded with a light sigh of contentment. The brothers exchanged glances, sharing a tacit understanding of the future that awaited them. It was as if the words of the mother had created an invisible bond between them, a mutual commitment to remain united, not only at that moment, but forever. Family bonds are a valuable gift, which helps us understand our own history and gives us a feeling of belonging. Value these bonds. Cultivate love and unity, for they are what keep us connected to our origins, even with the passage of time and the change of circumstances.